All right. Well, as you can see, I've got the big, beautiful Brooks Collins in front of me. How's it going, Brooks?
Better these days. I've recently recovered from a heart ablation, and I'm feeling less strange thumps in my chest.
Well, that's good news. Oh, man. So an ablation, you kind of scrape something off the heart, and that says, okay, I'll behave.
Yeah, they zap certain cells that have been misfiring the atria, and they seem to have been successful. So fingers crossed.
Well, we've all become experts in some piece of medical field.
Getting old is not for the the, the
Good-hearted.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let's not go down that path too far. How about we take it back to when we were young and beautiful?
Okay, well, I don't know about beautiful, but I was certainly young and inexperienced and a little green. I didn't grow up in La Jolla. I was a transplant from Wisconsin. So my parents brought us out to California from Wausau when I was in ninth grade, and it was a bit of a shock. I kind of walked around with my jaw dropped for an entire year.
So you joined us at Muirlands in ninth grade.
Well, Muirlands and La Jolla High School, because in Wisconsin, advanced students got sent ahead a year. So I started my school days at La Jolla High, and then I walked up to Muirlands and hoped to find that they were still having classes. Because sometimes they were not having classes. There was an assembly, and I had no idea what it was or where it was.
So you actually spent 4 years at going to La Jolla High.
Well, the first year was only one class, a math class. But
Ah,
yeah, I had classes at La Jolla High, then walked up and had the rest at Muirlands.
well, you must have had pretty much all they had to offer by what did you do for math when you were a senior?
Calculus.
And that was taught by,
Mr. Cromer, that was the advanced calculus class, and I actually had it in my junior year, but Miss Mudgett objected to the amount of time I spent goofing off in her class and threatened to give me an F. So I was forced to drop out of computer programming and calculus for that year.
so you repeated calculus. Not many people repeat. You might repeat.
I only half of it. It was the middle of the year, and I never did take up the computer programming again, although I did join the Explorer Computer Scouts after that. But for junior year, I was going up to UCSD with Jan Fronick and a couple of other guys and taking computer programming at the university.
All right. So, wow, you were all over the place. And that's maybe why we didn't see a lot of you.
I had a very fragmented high school career.
Ah,
Um, I did a lot of things, and I have been diagnosed late in life with moderate ADHD, which might explain why I jumped from major to major in college and why I jumped around a lot in high school. I played JV football. I was chairman of the chess club. In my senior year, I discovered drama and really fell in love with it. And so I went back in the summer to work on plays in La Jolla High School. I even took a class from Ralph Joyce, who had become the drama teacher again in the summer, even though I'd already graduated.
so drama club, as a senior, they did David and Lisa and the Mouse That Roared. What did you have a part? Were you backstage? What were you up to?
I was Lisa's therapist in David and Lisa, and I was Count Mountjoy in The Mouse That Roared. And I did win the Speech Arch slash Drama Award for La Jolla High Class of 70. But I have no idea. I think the main reason is I could project my voice better than anybody else in the class. Stephen
Awesome.
Deutsch took over drama from Ralph Joyce, and unfortunately, he was not as Ralph Joyce was a fantastic teacher. And that's one of the reasons why I talked him into letting me into his class in the summer because he, Stefan Deutsch was a substitute and he did all right. But yeah, and drama is the only thing that seems to have stuck with me. I did come back the next year and produce a readers theater of Under Milkwood at La Jolla High. I rented La Jolla High through the through San Diego City Schools, and we did a quick and dirty version of Under Milkwood for as a Christmas project.
As and this was you just took this on as your own.
I got a little money from my grandmother as a Christmas present, and I bought the scripts and the rights, and I talked to actors before and after me in the drama group. Um, Mitch Schneider was in it. Robin Hunt actually was directing, and we stole some of the principal actors from the play or the musical that was being rehearsed for January, which didn't get me in too well with the current class. But yeah, I gave it away for free, and it was quite wonderful.
Wow. So you say you stuck with that. It stuck with you.
Yeah,
And then beyond that, did you do anything dramatic?
well, in college, I worked a show technically. I gave up on acting fairly early when I discovered that I sweat so much from my stage fright that my socks got wet. And it, it was pretty severe. But I did work a show practically every quarter at first at UCSD. I attended a lot of drama, and then I did take a class there. And then when I transferred to UC Santa Cruz, I worked technically on plays practically every quarter.
So I'm counting two colleges. Was that it? Is that your total?
Well, you see, I never gave up completely on drama, although I graduated from UC Santa Cruz with a bachelor's in psychology. I went back to UCSD and started taking video and film production classes. A trip to watch the movie Convoy being made. A friend's father was being courted as the music director for that film, and we got a chance to meet Sam Peckinpah and the principals. Convinced me that I never wanted to work on a Hollywood film. It was such a mess. So
Chaotic.
yeah, it was totally chaotic. So I instead set my sights on community video access. And when I got out of school, I went to work at Southwest Cable TV, hoping to work my way into a production studio, which one of my classmates got, and I didn't.
Out. Well, Southwest Cable TV, where was that?
That was in the northern part of San Diego back in the late 70s. They were part of the group that is now Comcast, I believe. Back then it was called ATC, and Southwest was one of their subsidiaries. It was pretty much the Wild West in those days. Um, it was, we had a new director of the department I was in practically every month. In fact, one of the secretaries did so well at running the department, they gave her her own cable system back in Kansas.
All right, let's back up. With all this uh well, you called it bouncing around a bit. In high school, who did you hang with? Is anybody else bouncing around with you, or were you a lone
Yeah,
bouncer?
I hung out with the nerds. I hung out with Bob Lewis. I hung out with Conrad Fung, Paul Glykoff. Um, I hung out with Dave May, who unfortunately, I don't know if you know this, died of cancer right after completing his college career. He did a great job at his college career. He had a all tickets paid scholarship to USD and came down with uncurable cancer.
Mm.
So he spent the next year coaching Little League and soccer, youth soccer, because he wasn't going to have any kids of his own, and he really loved those kids. So that was how he spent his time, his last year on Earth. It was quite a sad thing.
That's a beautiful story, though. Wow. What was he majoring in?
History, I believe. He was really interested in Southwest history. His parents used to work at Goulding's Lodge in Navajo land every summer. They'd volunteer to work there for a month. And they had an incredible collection of artifacts, Navajo artifacts, which is now, I believe, on display at USD. They have his collection, the Dave May collection.
Fantastic. Oh, are you in touch with any of those other guys?
I'm still playing Dungeons and Dragons with Bob Lewis.
All right. Well, maybe if you don't mind, you could send me contact info in on Facebook Messenger or something.
Sure.
I'd love
I'm
to
in touch
reach
with
out to him.
Conrad too, just recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to talk to him. That would be great.
Yeah, they both went on in academia, both became professors.
Wow. That'll be great to hear about. Math, I imagine, for Conrad, or
Yep, Conrad did definitely score pretty highly in math. I think he started his own group at the University of Wisconsin in Madison.
uh-huh. And then Bob Lewis, what did he do? What was he,
Computers.
professor? Okay.
He did get a degree in astronomy, and then, like me, he switched careers to something that paid. And now he
Well,
teaches computers.
did we talk about your career that paid yet?
Well, um, I I couldn't. I left San Diego to follow a girlfriend who was going to UC Santa Cruz, and found out that the all the slots for community video at Santa Cruz were pretty much full, and I wasn't going to be able to make any money working for their cable company. So I took a temporary job creating wire harnesses for a physics experiment going in at the Linear Accelerator at Stanford. And I made the mistake of telling them that I knew how to use an oscilloscope. So once they had some boards that needed electronic testing, and I told them I knew how to use a soldering iron too, I started testing and repairing boards for them. The 6 month job became a 1 year job. And then the 1 year job became a year of working as a consultant to Caltech and Stanford and UCSC. At any rate, I ended up working at the Linear Accelerator Center at Stanford for about 30 years. No, 25 years. You got to count, got to count the last few years I was sort of volunteering. So, but yeah, they kept throwing more interesting jobs and more pay at me, and I just ate it up.
What a great thing that you found a path for your genius.
It was, well, genius, no, nerdiness, yes. Uh,
Well,
I did get to videotape the reunion of the homebrew computer club that used to meet in our auditorium at Slack. And I did get a one-on-one, a short one-on-one with Steve Wozniak through that. And of course, Slack was also the first website in the new world. It was website number 6 or something like that. So I scurried along and made a website for my then partner, who was a calligrapher, which is now on archive.org. So it will live forever. Although it overwhelmed me in a couple years, and I just gave up on it, let it run on its own.
so the website is a museum piece?
Yep, it came in, I think the earliest that Archive found it was in 1996. And it was all written in HTML 1.0, and it still runs on a modern browser because that was the basis that all HTML was based on.
Well, that's amazing because every few years, your computer will no longer support the operating system it has, but that website still runs.
Yeah, I tested it in NCSA's Mosaic web browser. Remember that?
No,
Mosaic was the progenitor of Mozilla, and
I remember that.
it was the very first. I logged into Yahoo when it was still on the Stanford campus, being run out of one of the dorm computers.
Just as here's a wild question. I had my uncle, Jim Moore, worked in the Stanford Computer Center, the computers that ran the campus. Did you ever
Uh-huh.
happen to run into him?
I worked at Slack, and we had pretty much separate places for
Yeah,
computers. We had our own computers up there. They had theirs down there. So I
right.
didn't work much with those guys. I did sometimes come down to the Alan Turing um, lecture hall to hear lectures given down there, but I don't think I ever ran into him.
Well, he did a similar thing. He wrote the operating system for all the campus computers,
Uh-huh.
and and they just couldn't replace it. It just kept running and running and running. It was ancient. I don't know how many decades old it was. And I think when he passed away, it was still running, because to go in and unwire it and plunk in something new, I guess impossible, even for all those geniuses.
I know that in Silicon Valley there used to be a guy who kept copies of every old and retired operating system and computer because people would come to him with floppy disks, with hard drives, and say, "We can't get our data because we've changed the system." And he would be able to recover it for them for a price.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. All right, let's back up. So you're not a genius, but you just happen to work at the Linear Accelerator in Stanford. So you were helping little particles run around fractions of light speed.
Yeah, I got to play with antimatter and matter beams, and basically, I was an Igor to the mad scientists, but we got along pretty well. Unfortunately, they introduced me to far too much good wine. When I went there, I started drinking. I was drinking stuff like 12, $15 a bottle, and when I left, I was buying $35 futures from Spain. It was like, okay. They had different tastes than me, and every Friday they had a wine and cheese tasting that I attended regularly.
So playing with matter, antimatter, did anybody kind of look up and say, "Oh man, I hope we don't make a black hole."
Yeah, they were not too concerned about that.
Oh, good.
They were dealing with particle beams that that didn't quite get up towards that energy. And even
Okay.
the Large Hadron Collider, people were saying, "Oh, they could create mini black holes," but I didn't know any of the physicists at Slack that believed that could happen. It was sort of like the people that were reading about physics but not really understanding it.
All right. Well, I'll rest assured then that we're not going to all get sucked in here at any moment.
Nope, nope.
Okay.
Well, the LHC is shut down now for 4 years. They're upping the energy, so you're safe for at least 4 years.
And is there something else bigger, better being built, or they get funded and unfunded? What's going on there?
They're upgrading the LHC. Bigger would be pretty hard. I think, what is it, 26 kilometers in in circumference? It's a huge underground ring. It goes from Switzerland over to France and back. And I did get to visit one of my friends there and get a little bit of a tour. I was incredibly jealous because CERN has a really great patisserie chef. They had incredible food in their cafeteria, nothing like the American one I was used to.
Well, tell me about some of the experiments that you were working on. I imagine you saw a lot of things just go nowhere, but you must have been a few exciting, oh, I don't know, theories were proved. The right particles popped out when you shot at each other at the right way.
So the first experiment I worked on was the last particle detector in the spear ring. The spear ring was the first attempt to make a instead of a straight in zoom into the target and smash something. It allowed you to make a raceway where two beams were going in opposite directions and smashing into each other. And the last experiment there was the Mark III, and I worked on the Mark III. It saw something, and it wasn't something that we could claim to really, claim it existed. And I believe that once the LHC got started with its much higher energies and much higher luminosity, it had a lot more energy. I think that it actually was seen pretty close to what we saw, but we didn't publish anything that won a Nobel Prize. Although I did work with three Nobel laureates at SLAC, so we won a few.
So this could have been a Higgs boson you were looking at?
No, no, no. Higgs boson is way out of the energy range of our poor little ring. The ring was actually made using um, uh, in a parking lot using a lot of shielding blocks that they had, and they made it above ground. Most of the LINAC was like, underground. But Pete Panofsky, who was the originator of SLAC and its director when I was there, um, kind of had a little bit of a, a burr up his ass about making a raceway type ring. And the government didn't want to fund it, so he made all the experiments chip in some of their money, and he built it in a parking lot, and it was incredibly successful.
So the innovation here was having two beams going opposite directions and hitting each other.
Yeah.
So you basically doubled your collision speed instead of a stationary target.
Well, not the speed, but the energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The speed is set because it can only go the speed of light. And then, yep, the cops come and say, nope, you're speeding.
Well, yeah, of course. So these were photons, not actual
No,
particles.
they were an electron and a positron, which is a negative, which is an anti-electron.
Now, how can you get electrons to the speed of light? I thought they'd get too heavy.
Pretty close. Not
Okay, 90 something?
99%. Yeah.
Really? But then they get too heavy. It can't put enough energy into them, especially with your setup to get any faster.
Well, they can get, yeah, nothing can go faster than the speed of light.
Well,
Nothing.
yeah, but I didn't know that an electron could go that fast because I thought things get really heavy when they start to approach the speed of light.
I don't think that was a problem.
Okay, well, I'll need to rethink that. That's great. Okay, so these electrons would hit each other, and what would you get?
You would get a shower of particles coming off the collision that were um, bosons and leptons and photons, and then they would smash together inside of a very large multi-story detector, which had wires running through it and gases, and it would deposit energy onto the wires, and there would be readouts from either end of the wires, and also there were other parts of the detector that read the energy that was deposited. And basically, if you liked the thing, you had to make a decision in about, oh, I think the first trigger window for the Mark III was 7 nanoseconds, which is 7 billionths of a second. And then there would be a decision made to either dump the data or not. And if you decided to keep the data, I think you had to make that decision within like another 15 nanoseconds. Um, a nanosecond, we used to have cables that were labeled not in feet, but in nanoseconds. And a 2 nanosecond cable, well, a 1 nanosecond cable was about this wide. And that's the basically how where an electric pulse would go from one to the other end in a billionth of a second.
Now, why not keep all the data? Because it was expensive to store it back then. You didn't have the resources.
Well, there was so much happening. These interactions happened so quickly. You wanted to select the good ones and let the other ones go away. If you had tried to store all of it, you wouldn't be able to capture it. You could hit the shutter, but by the time the shutter had closed, five more events had happened already. So,
Now, when you first got these electrons, first of all, getting electrons to hit each other, that's pretty good shooting.
well, electrons and positrons attract. So
Oh, good. So
they
they'll just whoop, oh yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
one's negatively charged, one's positively charged, so it makes it a little easier. But
So
yeah, it
you
was less
suddenly
than a
had
human hair. The interaction area was less than the width of a human hair.
so you had higher energy levels doing this, and these particles that popped out, were these like some of the first time these things had been seen?
Well, a lot of them, what they were studying, and I didn't take high energy physics, so this is, take this with a grain of salt. They were studying the decay modes of some of the particles, what particles became once they decayed. Some of the particles decayed so fast they didn't even get out of the detector. Some of the particles decayed so fast they didn't even get out of the vertex region where the interaction took place. But they were interested in the physics that could be revealed by what what the cascade of energy was, what different particles became as they split, as they decayed, and so they were looking for physics, the understanding the physics of the psi particle. Um, they're understanding the physics of certain particles. They wanted to know. I think B mesons was one of the things they were interested in, but it was sort of like trying to decide what the particle was like by seeing what it did when it came apart.
So if we have any, if haven't lost all our viewers yet, maybe we should head back to La Jolla and talk about how did you take advantage of all that beautiful ocean and sunshine and land
Well,
of luxury we lived in?
me and Bob Lewis did spend one summer when neither of us had a job going, what do you want to do today? The Cove or the shores?
Uh-huh.
And I never was a surfer, but I body surfed at the shores. I never had the guts to body surf at Boomers. And I snorkeled at the Cove. And I really, really miss that warm water because up here in the state of Washington, you just don't go in without a wetsuit.
Yeah, we didn't talk about where are you at now?
Bellingham, Washington, the upper left-hand corner of the country.
And I'm in Portland slash Yamhill, uh,
Hmm.
in Oregon, and we drive out to the coast. And the first time when I moved here in '80, we went out and oh, the ocean, great, let's go swimming. And we ran into the ocean and we go, oh crap, what a waste of an ocean.
I have to totally agree with you. Even when I was living in Northern California, I didn't like the water temperature, and up here it's just miserable.
Oh, Santa Cruz, it was I couldn't believe it when I stuck my toe in there. We were lucky down there. Whatever current was happening, it was beautiful. Well, snorkeling at the Cove, oh my gosh. I did a lot of that myself. Um, the Garibaldi, barracudas swim by, you get nervous, you know.
Well, at least we weren't following George Pamprin into the gullet of a great white.
I don't, no, we weren't. But yeah, the Cove, you'd go look at the blackboard. What's the visibility today? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I forget like 15 feet was good and 30 feet was unbelievable. And usually it was five.
Yeah, well, it was still worthwhile at five, and I just loved the Cove. The only time I've ever really enjoyed snorkeling better was in Hawaii,
Well,
and
yeah,
that's insanely clear water.
yeah, yeah. I did go in the 70s and snorkeled, and I went back recently, and the fish were still beautiful, but the coral, it's really sad.
Yeah, I'm afraid, you know, people at Slack were talking about global warming in the late 80s,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't know a physicist that didn't believe it was going to happen. And, all the deniers said, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then when it happened, they said, well, it happened, but not because of what you said. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
excuse me.
Well, the reality is that the coral is having a hard time. But anyway, um, jumping, did you jump off the clam at
I
the
did
cutoff?
not jump off the clam. I was a little bit too conservative to do that. I was too conservative to get invited into the back of the drama club parties where there was some weed being smoked a little bit.
Uh-huh. Well, maybe that was saved you some trouble.
Could have. Yeah, the the Air Scouts and the Computer Scouts didn't work out that much for me. I lost interest real easily in things like that. Although I did manage to put a hole in my retina at the Computer Scouts by working on there was a laser setup that they have that they let us play with.
Oh, gee.
And I accidentally looked the wrong way. So later in life, one of my optometrists said, "Did you know you have a hole in your retina?" No, but I did remember the headache I got after looking at the laser.
So is that a blind spot that your brain just kind of glosses over?
Yeah, yeah. I have macular degeneration now, so if I close my left eye and look at you, it looks like a funhouse mirror. So
Wow.
the retina has come loose and floating around and all sorts of terrible things. They actually use a laser to glue it back in place, which is kind of fun. You can tell I like technology, huh?
Well, especially when it works for you.
One of the things that hasn't gone away since high school was in the 70s. They came out with D&D, and me and my then college area friends started playing it. And the COVID epidemic sort of caused a uh, re-interest in D&D, and playing online was one of the things that kept me sane during COVID and while I was stuck at home. And that and watching way too many TV shows. But the the uptake is that I now play with people in Europe, people in uh, Arizona, people in Iowa, a couple of professors and from Slack, and a couple of old friends from high school. So it's, well, one old friend from high school, which is actually kind of nice.
Very good, very good. Well, it must be amazing what it's gone through. Tell me if I'm thinking of an early version of Dungeons and Dragons. It was a number of caves, and you'd go through, and it would open up, and every once in a while there'd be an amoeba blob would come, and you really couldn't do anything about those. You just had to get away from those. You were looking for pieces of the crown. Is that
No,
is
no,
that
no.
it?
No,
What?
no. It started out as a tabletop game
Okay.
with little miniatures,
Okay.
and it was set basically in the world of Tolkien. So there were dwarves and elves
All
and
right.
dragons and dungeons.
I don't
And
know what I was playing.
yeah, and it's an RPG, a role-playing game. So it
Oh, okay.
all the drama freaks who were nerds or who really liked Tolkien got into it. And
Okay.
it
With the role playing, that really can take on a whole life of its own. It's not just what the gamer has written.
Yeah, yeah. The dungeon master who runs the game usually either creates a world or but there are modules you can buy
Mhm.
that are, like this is the world, this is what's going on, this is the situation, and then the dungeon master knows what's happening next, and everybody else goes along with it. Now I play in person. Um, Twice a month, and I play online 4 times a month. And online, there's a place called Roll20 that uses an automated board for the tabletop. So it's called an online tabletop game. And like I say, it's going pretty well. It's still a chance to use my drama chops without sweating so badly that my socks get wet.
All right. What about a favorite teacher? It sounds like you and Ms. Mudgett, um, some kind of locked horns. I,
Uh,
I
I
like I liked her as a history teacher. What did you think of any teacher favorite teachers?
I think Miss Mudgett caught a lot of my misbehavior due to the fact that I had John Kerry, the the class before her, and I came out of his class kind of energized, shall we say? So his class was very good, but it made me feel very cynical, and Miss Mudgett was trying to do some interesting things with history that I um, should probably not have given her such a hard time about.
So we might have both been in the same class. Carrie maybe at 10 and Mudgett at 11-ish.
That sounds likely. Was
Yeah.
Chris Hoagie also in that class?
Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell, but let's see. Carrie would have us, we had to read not had to, we read the novels and one a week and made a report for 8 weeks or something.
It was great reading Moby Dick when the whales were coming in off the cove. I went down to the cove several times and read it while the whales went by.
Well, we read Moby Dick together. All right. Oh man, I still remember some of those scenes, the rendering of the whale, the description of that, how it would process through the ship. It was just one of the first times I've ever been sucked into a scene like that, like a movie. It was
Yeah, I
incredible.
really like that. I read some other books about fishing and whaling. Captain's Courageous, I think, was one of them back in junior high school. So I had already read books about that particular the fisheries and the whale hunting, and I just loved it. Always loved all forms of transportation, cars, planes, boats, trains, everything. Um, I I talked my parents into letting me take flight lessons, and I got my solo certificate at Montgomery Field when I was 15 and a half, and then the money ran out. It's like, and I didn't like the Air Scouts, so I gave up on that. The Air Scouts were going to fly planes with the Coast Guard, and I didn't just see how we were going to fly these big planes. So I gave up on it. But and I also liked sailing. I learned sailing in Wisconsin. And so yeah, Moby Dick and transportation were always big things. Um, I also had Der Frau for German. Did you have her?
No, I
Rob
did not
McMichael?
did not come anywhere near German, but you must have been there with Linda, um, not Linda Jenkins, Linda Jeffrey.
Possibly. The name sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Um, Dave
she
May
loves
was
us.
also in that class, and
Yeah.
I, we, she was one of the strictest teachers I've ever had. She definitely drilled the German into you, and she used to carry around a 1 inch diameter dowel, a long stick.
Oh
And
Lord.
if you stopped paying attention or she thought you were dozing off, she would come from behind and slap it down on your desk and wake you up. It was like, "Yeah, here, Collins, are you paying attention?" Yes, I am now, ma'am.
Well,
So,
okay, so we went from Carrie to Mudgett, and I remember that history class was very cool. It played into your drama love for drama because it was a role play.
yeah,
We were
yeah.
in the stock market, and we had a great time. But you were giving her a hard time, huh?
I wanted the traditional history out of the book kind of stuff. I wasn't having none of this new math or new history and all of that stuff. So yeah, but I was also having a lot of family troubles during high school. So I was in therapy, and I kind of had a chip on my shoulder. I gave a lot more people trouble than I wish I hadn't.
Yeah. I look back at high school and I think, man, if I could have just gotten out of my own head a little bit and been a little bit more, I don't know, compassionate or patient or
Hmm.
not so scared, not so taking care of myself and worried about other people so much and just been a little more open.
Yeah, what they call mindfulness now.
Yeah.
It's something that didn't, I never heard the term, but I could have used a lot more of it in high school.
Well, we know where we came from and now we know what to do now, so we can celebrate that.
Well, I still have trouble maintaining my mindfulness. It's, with ADHD, you have a tendency to go, oh, squirrel.
So what are you bouncing around on these days? Now, your Dungeons and Dragon addiction doesn't sound too bad. I mean,
Yeah, yep, that
so
keeps me
you
in
got better.
contact with the world in many ways. I've
Yeah.
also been I did a lot of travel before COVID hit. I had spent, yeah, a total of 5 months in Tokyo taking classes and learning about the culture, which I really loved. And I was planning to do that in Germany. I had found a school that offered, classes in language and culture. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And the uh, the effect it had on my health has kind of kept me from traveling. I've come out of my shell to go and visit my sister at Thanksgiving one year and got COVID and stayed in the motel instead. And I have traveled. I did travel for the 50th finally, but I have been very fatigued, and it turns out I think it was due to my heart condition.
Ah. Well,
So
hopefully this ablation is, has you have noticed any better energy since the
it
ablation?
it does seem that I have better energy since the ablation, and I'm hoping that in September I'm planning to go to Oslo to visit a friend there.
Mm.
So I'm hoping to get out of the country for the first time in what, 7 years? Something like that.
Well, that's great. You feel up to it. That's what we all want, a little more energy. Where did it go?
Is it nap time yet?
Well, all right. I think we're way over time, but it's been so fun. Show us before you go, show us your
Oh,
t-shirt and tell us the story about that.
yeah, when the scammers got hold of the Facebook page for the 50th reunion, they sent out a thing where you could order a t-shirt and also a mug with this logo, and I didn't know it was a scam, I swear. I didn't know it was a scam. So I ordered it. When I found out it was a scam, I was worried it would never come, but it did. They sent me this and the mug, so I'm fairly satisfied.
An entrepreneurial scam. All
Yeah, you
right.
got to give them credit. They did something quick and dirty, but it worked.
Well, Brooks, it's been great reconnecting. I'm just so grateful that you're feeling better and you're still able to travel the world and you look good, you sound good. And when's the next reunion?
40, 50, 60? I don't know.
Yeah. So hopefully God willing, we'll meet in La Jolla, all right?
All right, sounds like a deal. I'll definitely go down to the cove and swim around a bit.
I'll
Did
go
that the
with you.
last time. It was great.
I was looking for people to do that. So you and I, we're going to go get in the water. All right. Thank you
Sounds
so
good.
much. Good to
You're
see you.
welcome. Take care.
You too.